Hi, and they rightly call you, who has the rare talent to write across space and time. And when I saw the adaptation of my favorite book, as I say, I mean, you've done a fabulous job. But
Thank you.
but seriously, tell me, how challenging was it to adapt over a 500-page book that spans 8 decades, multi-generational, and also to stay true to the writer's narrative and then adapt it on screens? How challenging was that?
I mean, I think first of all, it's really wonderful to be able to work from really great source material, right? Sometimes that's not always the case. I love adaptations. I like it. I find that challenge exciting. And it always begins with a question of why do I want to bring this book to cinematic life? I have no interest in just doing something straight. I have no interest in that. I'm not the adapter for that. And like, if you're going to bring a book to the screen, you have to say something. And why is this being told? And once I figured out the dialogue between past and present, once I realized that the first generation and third generation can take up the same screen space in the show, then all of a sudden, I know how to do this show. I know what this show is, and that was really, really exciting.
Absolutely. And the way you've shown it, as the book also starts, do we ever learn from history? No, we don't.
Yeah.
So it was just perfect the way you've treated it. Also, making the series for Apple, what were the considerations? Because this is one aspect of Asian history that we've not seen in Western narratives and adaptations as such.
Yeah, I mean, 6 years ago, I think this show could never have been made, right? Um, and I think it's a testament to the streamers that because they work in a global environment, right, for the streamers, shows like this can be made. And also, it's a testament to the audience and what they want. Just when you look at the content that people are consuming and watching, it's so diverse. And it shows you that people are craving new stories. They're craving experiences from people that we haven't heard from before. It's a really exciting time, I think, to be in television.
Absolutely. And also with South Korean content, I mean, the way it's breaking records, streaming as well as at award ceremonies. Do you feel there is also this pressure, if I would say, to make the next big breakout show should be something that has, some reference to Korea?
I mean, when we sold the show, Parasite and Squid Game hadn't even come out yet, right? So there was never that we there wasn't that conversation. But I am just so I love Parasite and I love Squid Game so much that I'm just so happy that we get to ride on their coattails because they're exceptional work. Um, I think the burden on this show is whether or not a show that's multi-language can work, um, and whether or not that, yeah. But I think the audiences are really smart. I don't think that's going to be a barrier to entry anymore.
Absolutely. And it's been thoroughly enjoyable. And I actually didn't mind them switching across languages. Fabulous. And thank you so much for bringing my favorite book to life. Thank you
Thank
very much.
you. Thank you.
Hi, Theresa and Michael. Firstly, many, many congratulations on a fabulous, fabulous adaptation.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
I think this was just perfect. So I want to ask you both, when did you decide to adapt this particular book? It's like 500 pages into one of the most short narratives I've ever seen.
Well, first of all, thank you so much. It was definitely, it required creative thinking, of course. Adaptation from book to film and series is its own unique task. And our showrunner, Soo Hugh, had a vision for it, whereas the book is a linear story, the series, as you may know, it's a dialogue between different generations. And that's an idea that Sue came up with. And when you look at our cast and how they elevated even the characters in the story, when you look at Yoon Ya-jung, who is this iconic Korean actor, yes, she's won the Oscar. We actually asked her if she won the Oscar because we knew of her incredible talents for several decades. She's really a legend. And then having Lee Min-ho, he elevated the character of Hansu that was even in the story, in the book. He made him feel even more complicated. He felt you understood where he was coming from more. and he's a powerful individual. And so when we came to it, I first sent it to Soo Hugh, the showrunner, and we had a conversation about Sue's ability to be a producer and showrunner, coupled with her ability as a talented writer, that it was very rare 4 years ago to sell something like this. It was right at that time period where Crazy Rich Asians was about to come out. And that was important because it was a studio film. And prior to Crazy Rich Asians, it had been 25 years since there had been another all-Asian studio-led film, Enjoy Luck Club. These projects are very unique. In between there was also Mira Nair's film, which we use also as inspiration. But this is a few years before Parasite won the Oscar. So it was a strange time, and we all felt, and Sue felt, that it needed to be told in these languages, and we wanted to be authentic to the story.
Absolutely. And the casting, as you said, was just on point. These were the people I actually thought would have been the people in the book. But, it's amazing because this part of South Asian history has not been depicted for the Western audience. And now we've seen the way South Korean production, content, actors, are being globally watched. Do you feel that, this is what creators want to tap into, and also creating for a platform like Apple, a story like this?
I do. I think that we're all cinephiles. Michael's a cinephile. Sue's definitely a cinephile. I think it's interesting that Korean content is now so much more well-known. And I think it has to do with the distribution platforms. With Apple being a global service, I think that allows more access. The truth is, I grew up watching Korean films, Korean dramas, and listening to K-pop for a few decades. So this was not new to me. I knew how excellent Korean artists were. My mother's also a classically trained pianist, so arts and entertainment was flowing in our home. But I believe now it's more of a, the eyes are on South Korea and the artistry there, but I think it's because now it's equalized.
Yeah, I'll add to that. If you're in India, K-drama has been big for a long time outside Korea. So some of this is about were you paying attention, right? So Theresa and I take on hard tasks, right? So 4.5 years ago, it wasn't obvious in Hollywood necessarily, but if you were watching closely, Korean cinema had already conquered the planet, and at art level had conquered the planet. But I guess our belief, that there's less of a gap between art house and mainstream than people think. And people are connected to great stories, great storytelling, and Korean culture, Korean society. It's a global civilization. It draws from the region. It has a connection to America, and so the Korean perspective on the world is compelling, right? And so the internal success of the Korean cinema and television and K-pop and literature. It's a culturally vital place. And this experience in the novel, we were so convinced was a universal experience. My own family background is, my father was born in Germany. His family fled Germany, went to Panama for 2 years before coming to America. He was stationed actually in Korea as a captain in the US Army 25 years later. And when you hear these stories, they're wild, but we all have these sagas in our past, right? And so that was really our conceit, was that if you looked at this material, yes, it's incredibly specific and wonderfully so, meaning it's great to learn about the Korean experience, the Zainichi experience, Korean American, Asian American experience. But it speaks so much to everyone's experience, right? Stories about displacement, refugees, identity, family, most essentially, right? You're in India. These aren't themes that are unique to Korea and Zainichi. It's a universal story, we felt, and we hope audiences agree.
Thank you so much, and thank you, because there's a nervousness when your book is being adapted into a film, but this is fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
If you've liked this interview, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram.